Hello, hello, I'm Beth Joey and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, welcome. This is the channel where I paint my face, turn my camera on and talk about books. Am I currently wearing my old college polo? Why, yes I am. Do I care that it's about 6 years old and probably not the nicest thing I could have worn for this video? Why, no I don't. If you did not predict that this video was coming and you've been following my channel for a little bit, then my friend, you have not been paying attention. Of course, when the second book in the Crescent City series was coming out, I had to make a video about it and I had to vlog my experience rereading the first book and then finally reading the second one. So that is exactly what I'm going to do. I have right here with me now House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J Maas, the first book in the Crescent City series, which, as I have said probably about 1,000,000 times before, is the book that got me back into reading. I am going to give this another read, which I will admit I'm kind of terrified about because I have such high expectations because I love this book so much that if it doesn't meet those expectations, if it's not as amazing as it was the first time I read it, I'm going to be so disappointed. But I'm going to read it anyway, and then I am going to hopefully get the second one delivered soon by Waterstones and then give that a read as well. I know there are about 1,000,000 vlogs, videos, whatever that cover this specific topic, and I want to put my own thoughts out there into the ether and join the club of everybody just loving on Sarah J Maas at the moment. I'm putting the book down now because let's be honest, it's almost 800 pages, it's real heavy. Over the course of this vlog, like I said, I'm going to be reading this book and I'm going to pick up House of Sky and Breath once it's delivered. I will be giving you my thoughts and my updates, but for right this minute, I need to go to the library and pick up more books, which just seems like the dumbest thing to do because I have a bunch of books to pick up. I just got the notification and then I'm going to grab a coffee from Starbucks because I'm a basic white girl, and then I will sit down on my bed with my hot water bottle on my lap, my dressing gown on, and I will get so comfy into the perfect reading position so that I can read and smash out as much of this book as quickly as I can this weekend. But for right now, enjoy this lovely compilation of me going to the library and picking up a coffee. I won't lie, I think my camera's a little bit diagonal at the moment, but anyway, who cares? So I'm realizing I'm not amazing at this whole get really stuck into reading thing. The minute I set myself a goal being like, you have to read this ASAP, I all of a sudden just like get distracted by everything else that I'm doing. So I literally just made myself dinner at like 4:30 p.m, which is just really early for dinner, but anyway. So while I eat dinner, I'm going to watch a serial killer show because I like serial killer shows. And I think it's called Catching a Killer, it's on Netflix. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna watch like an episode of Catching a Killer while I eat my food and I just let it settle. And then once it's been like an hour after I've eaten, I'm gonna do my second workout of the day. And then I'm going to finally read more of House of Earth and Blood, which I am so still excited to do, but I've gotten so distracted today by literally everything else. I've just finished reading part 1 of House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J Maas, this lovely book here, which I'm going to put down now because it's very heavy. And wow, it just feels so nostalgic to be jumping back into this world, jumping back into the magic system, the political system, all the intrigue and the murder investigation and everything like that. It completely throws me back to 2020 when I picked it up pretty soon after it came out and just fell in love. But I had forgotten how much this book throws at you right from the get-go. I feel like I needed to read the first chapter even like 10 times before I could truly understand all the different houses and all the different species and all the different names that you got introduced to. And since it's been a while since I read a book by Sarah J Maas, I'd forgotten how amazing she is at literally throwing you into the world. Like, yes, she does info dump a bit in the first chapter, but later on, the descriptions that she uses and the imagery just make you feel like you are right there in Crescent City, walking alongside those characters, and it's just amazing. I'd missed her writing style. Something I love about doing a reread is that you pick up on things that you never noticed the first time you read it. So for example, I didn't actually realize, and I don't know why because this is so obvious now that I think about it, that the meat market actually doesn't refer to like produce It refers to people. They're referring to humans as meat. I mean, it is no wonder that there is a massive rebellion going on. But I do remember feeling really conflicted at this point in the book because Bryce seemed to somewhat support this, and that wasn't something I could get behind. Another thing I've noticed in this book is that Sarah J Maas is like switching perspectives in the middle of chapters and not really announcing the new perspective. And it's really interesting the way she does it because it's quite seamless. Like you actually transition and you realize quite quickly who the new voice is that you're supposed to be, you know, reading from. And I mean, that can't be easy to write. That can't be easy to do. So credit to her for that. And the only downside I think to this whole reread is that it is so hard to read some of the chapters with some of my favorite characters from the beginning of the book because I know what's going to happen to them and I know where their story is going to end up, and it breaks my heart. Like I felt myself on the verge of tears so many times. But anyway, those are my thoughts, and it is just part 1. I can already feel that this video is going to be lengthy. It might end up being 2 parts. We will figure that out later on. As for my plans for today, I'm going out for coffee with a friend this morning, and then I think I'm just going to get sucked back into reading, to be honest. I just really want to focus on reading this book this weekend and hopefully finishing it this weekend. I know I can do it because I did it the last time I read it. So yeah, that's going to be my focus for the day. And we are back with some more college merch. This is my women's college jumper from when I was at uni. I don't know why I've all of a sudden brought all this stuff out now. I feel like I'm just reminiscing on the good old days of university. I am 45% through House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J Maas, so I'm almost halfway there, which is just like, I've forgotten how long this book is. Originally, my plan for this vlog was to be super non-spoilery, but I don't think that's going to be possible because I know I'm already so excited by this book and I'm going to be even more excited by the next one that I'm just going to want to talk about it. So I've got my little notepad right here with every note that I wrote down while reading the second part of the book. And the first thing that I wrote down was, I don't understand why everyone is so anti-Bryce in the end of the first part and the beginning of the second one. Is it just because this community and this world and this city is so prejudiced against sort of half beings like Bryce, who is half fae, half human? Or is it because everything went down in the apartment that she shared with Danica? Like, why do they hate her so much? Why do the wolves that she used to be so close with all of a sudden hate her? Is it a thing now that with adult fiction it's just defined by constant references to sex? Like, everything is described in relation to sex. Like, the person's body type and a level of attraction someone has to someone else, it's all very centered around that. The second part was also where I had my very first complaint. That is just, why the hell did the angels involve Bryce in this investigation? Being a witness and being the only one to survive this demon does not make her an investigator. It makes her a witness. It makes her involved in the investigation in the point of, you know, giving information that might be helpful, but why all of a sudden is she leading this investigation? And then we met Bryce's father after him being talked about subtly a number of times, and we have that first interaction between him and Rune, and I have to admit, the first thing that I imagined when he was introduced and the character was sort of described in person was just a mad scientist, because he had all these like chemistry sets or something, or like potions bubbling around. As we're getting further and further into the book, obviously the relationship between Hunt and Bryce is growing, the romance is developing, and I'm loving every minute of it, but I can't wait for that protectiveness to go from duty towards the angels and towards Micah to then desire for Bryce, as their dynamic is changing from like antagonistic and constantly trying to rally each other up to like partners in crime, where they're noticing each other's vulnerabilities and really supporting each other when they're beginning to sense that the other one's having a particularly weak moment or needs a bit of help. Like when Bryce all of a sudden starts taking selfies in front of Sandriel because she can tell that Hunt's just completely frozen. That connection is just made even stronger when we get those chapters with Hunt's point of view, and you get to see that he's not this sort of like domineering, you know, alpha male sort of character that you get so often in fantasy that's so one-dimensional. He's actually got depth and sadness and regret. For now, I'm just gonna keep reading. I'm going to knuckle down because I want to get as much of this book read this weekend as I possibly can, as I've probably said a million times before. As for my plans for the rest of the day, I'm going to see Death on the Nile tonight with Ben, which I'm super excited about. There's this like cinema called Everyman Cinemas, which is super fancy. They've got like these couches that you relax on. They deliver you food while you watch the movie. It's amazing. And then yeah, just lots and lots more reading. And I'll check in with you again once I've reached part 4 of House of Earth and Blood. I have been waiting so impatiently, and just a second ago I got a notification from Royal Mail saying my delivery has made it to my house. So let's open this. Wow, I am really bad at this, so let's just hope that that is enough. And let's get this lovely package opened. I got it open. That's the invoice. Get rid of that, who cares? And oh, look at that beauty. Now that I've removed the horrible ugly sticker that was just sticking on there, here you go. This is House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J Maas, number 2 in the Crescent City series. I am so excited that this has finally turned up. This is amazing. I'm so keen. As we've already decided, this is going to be a spoilery vlog. I'm just going to read the blurb very quickly. The deadliest power, the fiercest passion, the cruelest fate. Bryce Quinlan and Hunt Athalar have made a pact. As they process the events of the spring, they will keep things platonic until the solstice. But can they resist when the crackling tension between them is enough to set the whole of Crescent City aflame? And they are not out of danger yet. Dragged into a rebel movement they want no part of, Bryce, Hunt, and their friends find themselves pitted against the terrifying Asteri, whose notice they must avoid at all costs. But as they learn more about the rebel cause, they face a choice: stay silent while others are oppressed, or fight. And they've never been good at staying silent. This is so exciting. So many interesting elements on here as well. Like you've got his wings, obviously his lightning, and you've got this like snake down the side there, which might be like the Viper Queen. I don't know. While I was flicking through to find out how many pages this had, I found this exclusive chapter written from Bryce's perspective, which I'm really excited by and I didn't know was going to be in here. But anyway, this chunker, this lovely beast of a book, is 801 pages, so it's 2 pages more, I believe, than its predecessor, House of Earth and Blood. I need to first finish House of Earth and Blood today. I've only got about 200 pages left, so I'm excited to get through that because I know all the action's just about to kick off, and then finally pick this up. I'm so excited. I will update you guys with my thoughts and feelings as I go along, but for now I need to get back to work and finish my book. Goosebumps. Absolute and constant goosebumps. I am glad to say I have finished House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J Maas, my reread for this vlog, and holy crap. I remember so vividly why I gave it 5 stars. That battle scene with Micah and then the overall battle scene at the end of the book, you cannot put the book down, and everything ties together so beautifully, and it's just constant goosebumps as different communities come together to support each other, and I just loved every single minute of this ending. As for Hunt and Bryce, it was just a book full of mutual pining and missed opportunities and interrupted opportunities, and I am praying that they finally get some sort of moment together where they just get to be together in this second book. The third part was also where we got our first scene with Ethan, where we get to see him and Bryce interact as they're both dealing with the grief and the loss of both Connor and Danica's pack. And that scene always just breaks my heart because you know those two are dealing with a very similar type of grief. Another thing I love about this book is the evolving grief and mental health related plotline throughout. Sarah J Maas definitely doesn't shy away from having those conversations about therapy, about mental health, about dealing with grief when you've lost someone. And the last thing that I noted down was that it is insane how reminiscent of our real world the discussions that they're having at the summit are. Things like war, resources, the environment, and the dealing with compensation and how much the commitment to compensation is actually worth when you're taking things away from people that can never really be replaced. I also noticed that in this world, everybody just seems to like to own everybody else, whether it be a slave or a subject, whether they be royal or not. Everybody just wants to own someone, and everybody in this world is owned by someone. House of Earth and Blood to me will remain 5 stars, will remain probably one of my favorite books of all time. I loved it, loved it, loved it, and I cannot wait to get stuck into House of Sky and Breath, which I'm going to do tonight. I'm going to get started on it as soon as I finish dinner, and I'm going to smash out as much of it as I can tonight so that I can get the majority of it read by the end of Saturday and then do a ton of filming on Sunday. So good night all, and I will see you in my next update. Now that I have finished House of Earth and Blood, I am of course jumping straight into House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J Maas, and I have just finished part 1 of this book and I am loving it so far. So part 1, I will say I was kind of sad when I read the blurb and I saw that Hunt and Bryce weren't just going to kick things off with their romance. It was going to be like, let's try and be platonic for like 4 months, I think it was. I was worried it'd be like the first with their sweeter moments being constantly interrupted, but I am super happy to report that that is not the case. Separate to Hunt and Bryce, all of the new characters being thrown in and all of the extra information we're getting about old characters is throwing me into an absolute whirlwind. I have no idea who to trust, who I'm not supposed to trust, who is double-crossing who. I've also just been introduced to a new character called Agent Daybright, and it's not overly clear who she is, but I've got a couple of suspicions, and I'm hoping that it's who I think it is because I'm really hoping that romance blossoms a little. And then of course Agent Silverbow, who we do find out who that is, and I was completely thrown for a loop when I found out it was Cormac. I just did not expect him to be a hero. I expected him to be a villain in this story, considering the fact that he is sort of challenging Hunt and Bryce's current relationship. But all in all the different perspectives, all the different species, the different storylines, everything is just making this feel like an epic fantasy rather than just an adult fantasy, and I am so hooked. I think this is my first of this type, and it's one of those books where you have to pay so much attention. You cannot slip up. You can't read it when you're tired because you will miss something, and that something will be important. I just know it. As for what I'm going to do right now, I'm literally just going to spend my weekend reading this book. I am so hooked on it and I need to find out what happens next. So there's not going to be a heap of clips of me doing anything really. It's just gonna be a lot of updates. So I will see you in my next one. Okay, I have just finished part 2 of House and Sky and Breath, and the intrigue continues, and Sarah J Maas has just succeeded at absolutely tearing my heart out of my chest once again. I had such incredibly high hopes for Cormac and Sophie. They were going to be my new favorite couple, and I was just waiting for that reuniting scene where they'd come back together and realize that she's still alive. They kept her sort of state very ambiguous, and to have her confirmed to have passed away and drowned is just, it tore my heart out, and Sarah J Maas just stomped all over it. In part 2, we got a little bit more time with Ethan, the werewolf, which is amazing. I'm so glad, and his sort of crush on Bruce was somewhat revealed and explored a little bit more, which I was incredibly surprised by because it was not alluded to at all in the first book. I think it's really interesting that he's found this wolf at the astronomer's lair, and I want to know a bit more about who she is. I'm a little bit confused about Agent Daybright because she does seem like she's trying to help the rebels by feeding them intel, but she also doesn't seem like she completely supports them, or at least doesn't support this Pippa character who is just an absolute nut job, which I kind of understand why she wouldn't support Pippa but also support the rebels, but I can't figure out what her motivations are. I can't figure out how she fits into anything. Braxian is slowly becoming one of my favorite characters, which I absolutely did not expect considering who he was. I mean, this whole story is just balancing action and politics and romance so well, and I am flying through. I will come back and give you my thoughts on the final part, part 3, in a sec. What the hell? What in the name of all things that is holy just happened? I thought that everybody that was talking about all the series of Sarah J Maas's being connected were just, you know, people who loved it and just really wanted it to happen. I didn't think that it would actually happen. This is going to be some like Marvel level interconnectedness. I can just feel it. If you can't already guess, I have just finished House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J Maas, and it is again another absolute 5-star read for me. This was incredible. I absolutely loved it. It had a very heist style plot towards the end, which I'm always a huge fan of, and something that I wouldn't usually like, all the political intrigue and the talking and everything like that. I usually like a faster paced, more action filled novel, but I don't know what I don't know how she does it. I don't know how Sarah J Maas does it. She just keeps you enthralled and interested even when it is just like political discussions. Another note on part 3 is that there were some romances that I was not expecting at all, and when they happened it was like mind blown. Like Hypaxia and Celestina, what? I thought Hypaxia was Daybright for the longest time, and then I thought Celestina was Daybright, and then it turns out to be the Hind, like Lydia. Like, who? Why? How? There's obviously going to be a coup in the Wolves, for example, because they found this new alpha that's part of the Fender line. And then obviously Rune has been hinting a few times at the fact that he wants a coup to take place and that Bryce would be an incredible queen. I loved all the time that we got to spend with new characters and with sort of pre-existing characters that hadn't gotten a lot of time in the previous book, like Tharion, the merman, and Ethan, the wolf. Their stories just didn't feel quite complete after the first book, so it's so nice to see more of them. Rune's love interest in this was definitely unexpected. I somewhat predicted it towards the end just because there was so much double crossing within Sandrael's Triari that it just had to make sense that another one of them would be the person that is helping this rebel cause, but it's going to be really, really interesting to watch how that conflict in Rune's mind plays out, as he has to sort of come to terms with the fact that the Hind is incredibly evil and has tortured and killed so many, you know, in the past, so many people in the past, but then is trying to turn that around and trying to, you know, make herself better. And then of course Hunt and Bryce are just heart-poundingly adorable. They let each other be themselves and really go out and fight and do what they, you know, they feel they need to do. They don't hold each other back, which is incredible to see, incredible to read. But then they also never let the other one go at anything alone. They're always there to support each other, to hold the other's hand if they need it. In terms of pacing, House of Sky and Breath was definitely slower than House of Earth and Blood, but I think that's just because a lot of this book was just setting things up for where the story's going to go from here, really evolving that world and making it clear who the Asteri are and what power that they have. I love that there was no real like good and evil between the rebels and the Asteri. They were both somewhat corrupt in their own ways, and then Bryce and her team had to just figure out their way through that and figure out where they stand on both sides, who they agree with on different issues. And Danica is probably the most convoluted, confusing character that I have ever met, ever encountered. She knew so much, she investigated so much, she kept so many secrets, and I'm at the point where I'm like, how much more could there possibly be? But yeah, like I said, this was an absolute 5-star read for me. A 5-star reading vlog for me as well, getting to read House of Earth and Blood again and really relive how much I loved that book, and then finally jumping into House of Sky and Breath after waiting so long for it. Of course, with this new crossover between Akatar and Crescent City, I need to get the next book so badly, but I know it's going to take ages, and I really, really want to know if Throne of Glass is going to get thrown in there as well, or if it's just like because it's completed series it's going to like stick to the side. That is the end of my reading vlog. Sorry if it was super spoilery. I didn't intend it to be this way at the beginning, but I just got so into these books that I couldn't help but talk about the details of them, so sorry if this wasn't really what you were hoping for. Let me know in the comments down below if you've read both of these books, if you've loved them as much as I have, if there are any issues that you had with them. I love to hear your thoughts. And please, if anyone has any intel about when the next book can be expected, tell me, because I'm so desperate to know. As always, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to be notified when I release new content, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!